Hello class, thanks for tuning in to view this presentation. The article I've selected is titled, Threats to Racial Status Promote Tea Party Support Among White Americans. First, let's explore the source of the research. The article was published in the Social Science Research Network, which is a higher education publication, and it's specific to the Department of Sociology. The study was conducted by the following: all professors: Rob Weiler from Stanford University, Matthew Feinberg from University of Toronto, and Rachel Wetz from University of California, Berkeley. I've also created a link down below. Feel free to explore. It is a bit link that I've created. The purpose of the research is to confirm a correlation between threats to the status of whites in America and popular support for the Tea Party. The hypothesis that the researchers are trying to prove is that various political, economic, demographic trends and events, for example, the election of the first non-white president and the rising minority population, have been perceived as threatening the relative standing of whites in the United States, resulting in racial resentment, fueling popular support for the Tea Party movement. The research method utilized a longitudinal study. The duration of the study took 3 years and 3 months. The online surveys ran from October 2011 to January 2015. The survey utilized a random sample. 5 survey-based experiments were conducted with a total sample size of 1,329. Citizens from 15 cities participated in the online surveys. The individuals were recruited from online sources. Incentives were provided, such as iPods, Amazon gift cards, and in some cases, a small amount of money. Ads were posted on Craigslist and Amazon's Mechanical Turk. Data was collected and analyzed from 5 experiments. I will provide you with a brief overview of the study's objective. Study 1: President Obama's Heritage. It set out to make more or less salient his African American heritage. Participants were randomly assigned to see a version of the picture in which Obama's skin was either artificially lightened or darkened. Results indicate that white participants in the dark Obama prime condition were significantly more likely to report that they supported the Tea Party when compared to the white participants assigned to the light Obama prime condition. Study 2: Racial Status and Threat. White population is declining. In Study 2, researchers tested whether threats to white majority status might lead whites to greater Tea Party support. Pathwork finds that threats to majority status can prompt greater conservatism, racial sentiment, and pro-white attitudes. Researchers randomly assigned participants to either a majority stable condition, in which the report emphasized that whites remain the largest ethnic group in the U.S., or a majority threat condition, in which the report emphasized that white majority in the U.S. is steadily declining, with minorities expected to surpass whites in numbers by the year 2042. White respondents assigned in the majority threat condition reported greater support for the Tea Party than did those participants assigned to the majority stable condition. Whites assigned to the majority threat condition also supported higher levels of racial resentment. Study 3: White population income is declining. Researchers tested the effect of threats to whites' economic advantage. Participants assigned to the income gap expanding condition were shown a graph in which median income for white Americans held steady from 2007 to 2010. Participants assigned to the income gap closing condition showed that Black and Latino Americans' incomes held steadily during the time period while whites' income steadily declined. Results confirmed that white respondents assigned to the income gap closing condition reported greater support for the Tea Party than did those participants assigned to the income gap expanding condition. Additionally, whites assigned to the income gap closing condition reported higher levels of racial resentment. Study 4: Replication of Study 2. The study was the same as Study 2, although with a sample of white participants who previously indicated support for the Tea Party on a short online survey. Consistent with prior results, participants assigned to the majority threat condition reported greater support for the Tea Party than those assigned to the majority stable condition. Researchers also included a composite measure of identification as a Tea Party supporter. Study 5: Racialized aspects of the Tea Party platform were highlighted. Participants were randomly assigned in either racialized platform or a libertarian platform condition. Consistent with prediction, white respondents assigned to the racialized platform condition supported the Tea Party more than did participants assigned to the Libertarian platform condition. White respondents also viewed the movement more positively in the racialized platform condition. Upon analysis of the survey data, the researchers concluded that the results offer further support to their claim that racial status threats leads whites to greater support for the Tea Party. They concluded that trends and events occurring beginning in late 2008 threatened the standings of whites in America, leading whites to greater resentment of minorities and motivation to support policies and movements that would restore their group's standing. The authors propose that the Tea Party's position on racialized issues like the Obama presidency, immigration, and welfare mean that it is perceived as a pro-white, anti-minority movement, making support for the movement attractive to racially threatened whites motivated to restore the symbolic status of whites in America. Moving on to the methodology, which is primarily quantitative, in all studies, participants were recruited to a study of social attitudes that began with a short demographic questionnaire. The study was designed to provide a precise and controlled experiment. As mentioned earlier, in the controlled experiments, surveys were manipulated. They used purposive sampling as analysis in all studies focused on white participants. Their ages ranged from 18 to 82, with half of the sample size being college educated. Researchers analyzed the effects of condition for minority participants. For the interest of thoroughness, results for minority participants were analyzed. Researchers discovered that minority participants responded quite differently from white participants, if anything, expressing lower support for the Tea Party in the white racial threat conditions in studies 1 to 3. The researchers set out to control for Republican Party support. Past research finds that status threats can lead whites to express greater conservatism in general. Studies 2 and 4 were designed to statistically control for conservatism utilizing the Likert scale. They also used diverse levels of measurement, such as the regression model, where researchers ran a series of multiple regression models analyzing the effect of status threat on Tea Party support, while controlling for Republican Party support. They conducted robustness analysis. Two sets of robustness analysis were conducted: a p-curve analysis, which examines the observed distribution of p-values and compares it to the theoretical distribution of p-values when there is no effect present. The second set of analysis consists of the replicability index, or R index, which is a measure used to evaluate the probability that effects will replicate. Composite measures analyze the willingness to contribute to the Tea Party, identification as a Tea Party supporter, and a positive views of the Tea Party, which were all measured utilizing the Likert scale. Bootstrap analysis found that 95% confidence interval for the mediation analysis did not include a zero, ultimately indicating that the mediation was statistically significant. In evaluating the conclusion and taking into account the 5 studies that were conducted by the researchers, the results are consistent with group position theory, which proposes that race prejudice is a defensive reaction to preserve the position of the dominant group. The study helps to explain the sudden emergence and continuing robust levels of popular support for the Tea Party movement. Various political, economic, and demographic trends and events have been perceived as threatening the relative standing of whites in the United States. Racial resentment appears to be fueling popular support for the movement. Ultimately, the decline of whiteness is viewed as a threat. Having observed all this information, is the argument convincing? I would argue that this study makes a very convincing argument. It provides an acceptable R index. It utilized several surveys and experiments to prove its hypothesis. The researchers operationalized the surveys accordingly, utilizing diverse methods of analysis. They used previously constructed theories about the Tea Party to craft their experiments. Biases were addressed by also including the results from non-white respondents. I am certain that other biases exist, but extensive research has been conducted on the theory, yielding similar results. I pose a question to all of you. Are there any biases that you can think of that could possibly have skewed the results? Lastly, here are a couple of references utilized in this presentation, and thanks again for taking the time to view it.